You want to know which irons are quietly stealing your money. And I'm about to tell you because I bought almost every one of them. Here's the verdict up front. Most of the irons sold to golfers over 50 deliver almost none of the distance they promise, and the number stamped on the bottom of that club is closer to a marketing decision than a measurement. I know that sounds crazy. I used to laugh at guys who said it. Right up until the afternoon, I watched a launch monitor prove it in front of my own eyes. By the end of this, I'll show you the $10 fix that straightened my irons more than any $1,800 set ever did. And the best part is this works on the clubs already sitting in your garage right now. You don't have to buy a thing. Let me take you back to that afternoon because that's where this whole story cracked open. I was standing in a fitting bay, 61 years old, holding a brand new 7-iron I'd just paid good money for. The fitter asked me to hit my old 7-iron first, the one I'd played for 6 seasons, then the new one. Same swing, same ball, same me. The new club carried 11 yards farther, and I remember grinning like I'd found the fountain of youth. Then the fitter did something no salesman had ever done. He turned the 2 clubs upside down and laid them on the counter side by side. The new 7-iron had less loft than my old 6-iron. Not the same loft, less. And in that second, the grin fell off my face because I finally understood what I had actually been buying all those years. Not distance. A relabeled club with a smaller number printed on it. That's where the betrayal starts. And I need you to understand how deep it goes because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. For decades, I believed the same thing you probably believe. I believed that when a new set of irons carried farther than my old set, the engineers had done something magic, faster face, hotter technology, more forgiveness. That's the story every spring. New model, more yards, and my credit card came out every single time. What nobody told me, what took me years and a lot of wasted money to figure out, is that most of that extra distance came from one boring trick. They took loft off the club and slid the number down. Let me give you the real figures, because this is the anchor of the entire story. Go back to the middle of the 1990s. A standard 7-iron had about 35 degrees of loft. That was the industry norm for decades. My dad's irons, my first real set, all right around there. Now pick up a modern game improvement 7-iron from the last couple of years. A lot of them sit at 28, 29, even 27 degrees. That is 6, 7, sometimes 8 degrees weaker than the club that wore the same number a generation ago. 7 degrees of loft is not a rounding error. 7 degrees is basically a full club and a half. So when that shiny new 7-iron flies farther, of course it does. It isn't a 7-iron anymore. It's an old 5-iron wearing a 7-iron costume. Here's the part that stung. I wasn't gaining distance. I was moving it because when you strengthen the loft on the 7-iron, you have to strengthen everything around it to keep the set flowing, which means the club that used to be my pitching wedge got sucked into the set too, and suddenly I had this enormous gap at the bottom of my bag between my wedges. So the same companies that sold me the stronger irons turned right around and sold me an extra gap wedge to plug the hole they created. I paid twice. Once for the illusion of distance, and again to fix the problem the illusion caused. And it gets worse for us, the guys over 50, and this is the part that really made me angry once I saw it. Stronger lofts need more club head speed to launch the ball high enough to actually hold a green. A tour player swinging 115 miles an hour can launch a 28-degree 7-iron into the sky and drop it soft. You and me, swinging at 75 or 80, we hit that same delofted iron and the ball comes out low and hot and runs through the back of the green like a putt. The very design that produces the big distance number on the box is the design that fails the senior golfer on the course. That's the first club category I want you to be careful with. The super strong, lofted, so-called max distance game improvement irons, on paper they scream distance. In your hands, at your speed, they can rob you of the one thing you need most, which is height and stopping power. But loft-jacking was only the first curtain I pulled back, because once I stopped trusting the numbers on the sole, I started looking at the other end of the shelf, the expensive end, and that's where I made my most embarrassing mistake of all. For a while, after I figured out the distance game, I overcorrected. I decided if the distance irons were a trick, then the real quality must be in the premium stuff. The forged blades, the players' irons the tour guys use. I walked into the shop and I bought a gorgeous set of forged muscleback blades, thin top line, no offset, the kind of club that looks like a piece of jewelry sitting on the grass. I paid a fortune. I felt like a real golfer, and I played some of the worst golf of my life. Here's what nobody selling those clubs wanted to admit to a 60-something amateur with a 14 handicap. A muscleback blade has almost no forgiveness. The sweet spot is the size of a dime. When I flushed one, yes, it felt incredible, this soft, buttery click I could feel in my hands, but I only flushed maybe 2 out of every 10. The other 8 came off the toe, the heel, thin, and every one of those was punished. Shorter, crooked, and honestly painful in cold weather. I was paying premium money for a club engineered to expose my mistakes instead of hiding them. The independent testing on this is brutal and clear. When you put average golfers on a launch monitor and compare a forged player's blade against a cast game improvement iron, the mishits with the blade lose distance and accuracy fast, while the game improvement iron holds its line and its yardage even when you catch it off center. The perimeter weighting, the wider sole, the lower center of gravity, that's not marketing fluff. For an amateur, that forgiveness is worth real strokes, but the industry sells the blade on feel and looks and tour pedigree, and a lot of proud golfers over 50 buy the club the pros play thinking it'll make them play like the pros. It does the opposite. So that's the second thing I want to save you from. Do not buy a player's muscleback blade because it's beautiful and the best in the world play it. Unless you're consistently breaking 80 and striking it pure, that club is a tax on your ego, not an investment in your score. And here's the twist I didn't expect. The thing that really made me feel like a sucker. That expensive feel, that soft, buttery sensation everybody raves about with forged clubs. Blind testing has shown over and over that most golfers, when they can't see the club and the vibrations are masked, cannot reliably tell a forged head from a well-made cast head. The feel difference we swear by is largely in our heads, driven by the label and the price tag and the shine. I had convinced myself I could feel $400 extra of buttery softness. I couldn't. Nobody handed me that truth. I had to trip over it. Therefore, I started asking a harder question. If the distance irons trick you with lofts and the premium irons punish you for being human, then why does the whole industry push a brand new set on you every single year? And that question led me straight into the ugliest part of this business. Think about the rhythm of it. Every spring, like clockwork, a new flagship iron drops. New name, new paint, new story about a breakthrough face material or some tungsten stuffed into the toe. And the reviews light up, and the pros are suddenly playing it. And last year's model, the one that was revolutionary 12 months ago, is now quietly yesterday's news. I rode that treadmill for years. I'd pay top dollar around $1,400 to $2,000 for a premium set, play it for a season, feel the itch, and trade up again. Here's what the launch data actually shows when you line up iron models from year to year. The real performance difference between this year's flagship and the one from 3 or 4 years ago is tiny. We're talking a yard or two differences so small they fall inside the margin of error of the test itself. The genuine leaps in iron technology happen slowly over 5, 7, 10 years, not every 12 months. The annual release is a sales calendar, not an engineering breakthrough. And the proof is in the price collapse. The set that cost me $1,800 in the spring is selling for $700 or $800 18 months later, not because it got worse, but because a newer number came out and the marketing machine needs you to feel behind. Which brings me to the third thing to never buy. The brand new flagship iron at full retail on release day. You are paying the maximum possible price for the minimum possible improvement, and you're paying for the privilege of being first. Let last year's model, or the one from 2 years ago, come down in price. It's the same forgiveness, nearly the same numbers, for hundreds of dollars less. I have wasted more money chasing the newest label than I want to admit on camera. Now, I know exactly what a lot of you are thinking right now, because I thought it too. You're thinking, this is all fine for the guys shopping for new clubs, but I already own my irons. I'm not about to drop $1,000, so what's in this for me? Stay with me. because this next part is the piece I wish somebody had handed me 20 years ago and it cost almost nothing. This is for you, the golfer who wants to fix what's already in the bag. Think about that moment for a second, because I bet some of you are standing in your garage right now, flipping over your own 7-iron, wondering what number is actually stamped underneath. That gut punch feeling, finding out the club you trusted was never what you thought it was, that's exactly why I put everything I've learned into the Iron Clarity Complete set. Inside, Swing Strong lays out the 4 iron families so you know exactly where your game actually lives instead of guessing in a shop. Iron Decoded exposes the loft deception in full so you can read your own set the way that Fitter read mine, and Iron Code walks through the 7 costliest buying mistakes so you stop paying for them one purchase at a time. Here's something you can check tonight for free before you buy anything at all. Go grab every iron you own, flip each one over, and see if the loft numbers actually climb evenly by 4 degrees like they're supposed to, or if there's a jump that tells you someone jacked the numbers on you. The fastest way to get the books is to scan the QR code right there on your screen, or go to the link in the description or the pinned comment. Every set of irons you'll ever consider buying again benefits from knowing this now before the next purchase, not after. Let's get back to it, because I need to take you back to that afternoon all the way to the beginning of this story. Here's the truth that the new set every year machine never wants you to hear. The single biggest thing standing between your current irons and better golf is very often not the club at all. It's how that club is set up to fit you. And 2 settings matter more than anything: lie, angle, and loft, and both of them can be adjusted on irons you already own, usually for about $10 to $15 per club at any decent shop with a loft and lie machine. Let me start with lie angle, because this one changed my ball flight more than any new purchase ever did. Lie angle is simply the angle the shaft sits at relative to the ground when the club is sold properly at impact. If it's too upright for you, the toe lifts, the face points left, and you pull your irons. If it's too flat, the heel lifts, the face points right, and you push and lose them out to the side. And here's the number that stopped me cold when I read it. At normal iron distances, being just 2 degrees off on your lie angle can push your shot roughly 12 to 15 feet offline at the target, and it gets worse the farther you hit it. 12 feet is the difference between the middle of the green and the bunker, and almost every off-the-rack set is built to one generic standard that fits almost nobody exactly. I had played crooked irons for years, blaming my swing, taking lessons, buying new clubs, when the actual problem was that my clubs were built for some average man who doesn't exist. Once I had my lie angles checked and bent to fit my posture and my swing, my irons started finding the middle of the face and the middle of the green with the exact same clubs I'd been cursing the week before. No new set, no hot new face technology, just a machine, a few minutes, and a fitter who actually measured me. The second adjustment is loft, and this ties right back to that gapping nightmare I told you about earlier. If your set has weird distance gaps, where 2 clubs go almost the same yardage, or there's a huge canyon between 2 others, a good fitter can bend the lofts a degree or 2 to even those gaps out. You don't need to buy the extra gap wedge the industry wants to sell you. You can often reclaim proper spacing in the clubs you already own for the price of a couple of sleeves of balls. Here's how you check whether you even need this, and you can start this weekend. On a launch monitor, or even just carefully on the range with a rangefinder and honest eyes, hit 10 shots with each iron and write down your average carry, not your best one, your average. Then look at the gaps between them. If 2 clubs are within a few yards of each other, or if there's a 30-yard chasm somewhere, your set is poorly gapped for your swing, and a loft adjustment on your existing irons will fix it far cheaper than a new set. This is the work the salesman skips, because there's no commission in telling you the clubs you already own are 90% of the way there. But even fitting the clubs you own leads to the last big question, and this is where I finally have to tell you which irons are genuinely worth your money. Because if the distance irons trick you, the blades punish you, and the yearly flagship overcharges you, then what should a smart golfer over 50 actually buy? And the answers surprised me, because none of them are the sexy ones. The first thing genuinely worth buying is last generation's game improvement iron from a company that builds forgiving heads and honest gapping. I'll say the quiet part out loud. A set like the Ping G series, the ones from a couple of years back, holds up beautifully. Wide forgiveness, sensible lofts that a slower swing can actually launch, and they've dropped hundreds of dollars off their release price. Same club that was praised to the sky 2 seasons ago, now sitting at a fraction of the cost because a new number came out. That's not a compromise. That's the smart buy. The second thing worth every penny is a set of quality pre-owned irons. And I know some of you just flinched because I flinched too. I used to think used clubs were somebody else's problems. Then I learned how irons actually wear. The head is a solid piece of metal. It does not get tired. As long as the grooves aren't worn smooth and the shaft isn't damaged, a 3 or 4 year old set of premium irons plays virtually identical to the day it left the factory. You can buy a fantastic used set for $300 to $500 that outperforms a brand new budget set at the same price because you're getting last year's premium engineering instead of this year's cheap plastic. The depreciation someone else ate is your gift. Take it. And the third thing worth your money isn't a brand at all. It's the fitting. I mean it. The best money I have ever spent in golf was not on a club head. It was on an hour with an independent fitter who put me on a launch monitor, checked my lie and loft, matched me to the right shaft, and did not care which logo I walked out with. For a senior golfer, the shaft alone is enormous. So many of us are still swinging heavy, stiff steel shafts we bought when we were 40 and stronger, and switching to a properly fit, lighter graphite shaft can pick up clubhead speed and launch that no clubhead on earth will give you. That's not marketing. That's physics matched to your actual body today at your actual speed. Now, let me warn you about 2 more traps quickly, because I promised you the ones to avoid, and I keep my word. Be very careful with single-length iron sets, the kind where every iron is built to the same length as a 7-iron. The idea sounds wonderful. One setup, one swing, simplicity. But for a lot of players, and especially slower swinging seniors, the long irons built to that short length struggle to launch, and the short irons built to that longer length fly too far and lose control. They work beautifully for some and are a genuine mess for others, and you will never know which one you are until you've spent the money. Test before you trust. And be skeptical of the flashy direct-to-consumer sets that promise tour performance for a rock-bottom price with a slick online story. Some are honestly good value, but many are selling you the same castings everyone else uses with a big marketing budget baked into the price and no fitting, no support, and no way to try them until the box shows up at your door. So here's where all of it comes together. Here's the finale. The single most valuable thing I learned in all these years of being fooled. The fix that costs almost nothing and works on the clubs you already own. And I didn't get this from a commercial. I got it from digging through the way tour vans and old school club fitters have quietly worked for decades. The stuff that never makes it into the glossy ad. It's the lie board test. And you can do it this weekend in your own garage or at any range with a mat. Here's how it works and why it's so powerful. You take a strip of impact tape, or even just a strip of masking tape, and you stick it across the sole of your iron, the bottom of the club. Then you hit shots off a firm surface, a lie board, or a hard mat. When you look at the tape afterward, the scuff mark tells you the truth. No salesman will. If the mark is out toward the toe, your lie is too flat for you, and the club is pointing your shots right. If the mark is in toward the heel, your lie is too upright, and it's pulling you left. If it's dead center, your lie fits, and your misses are your swing, not your gear. That little scuff mark is the exact information the fitting industry charges you to discover, and it's the setting that moves your ball more than any face technology ever printed on a box. Because here's the truth, the whole business is built on hiding. They would rather sell you a new $1,800 set to fix a pull than tell you the $10 bend that would fix it forever. The lie board doesn't lie. It can't be marketed, and once you've read that tape, you own the single most important piece of information about your irons that they've been charging you for all along. Take that scuff mark to any shop with a loft and lie machine, have them bend your existing irons to match, and I promise you will hit more grains next month with the clubs you already own than you would with anything new on the wall. I spent years and thousands of dollars believing the answer was always the next purchase. The answer was a strip of tape and a machine that cost a shop a few $100 and you a few bucks per club. That's the whole game they didn't want you to see. If there's one thing I want you to walk away feeling, it's that you were never the problem and your swing was probably never as broken as they let you believe. You were just handed clubs built for someone who isn't you, wearing numbers that don't mean what you thought, at prices that never had to be that high. You're the kind of golfer who wants the truth more than the hype, or you wouldn't have made it all the way to the end of this with me. So let me ask you something specific, and I really do read these. What's the loft on your current 7-iron? Go flip it over, look it up, and tell me in the comments whether it's a real 34 or 35 degrees, or whether they slipped you a jacked up 28. And tell me the worst iron money you ever spent chasing a distance number. Drop it below. I want to hear it. If you're done paying for logos and stories and want to keep seeing what the gear actually does behind the marketing, come along with me, because that's the whole reason this exists. Next time, I'm putting the so-called game improvement wedges under the same light, and I'll show you why the fresh grooves you paid extra for lose their bite faster than anyone admits, and the simple test that tells you when your wedge is already dead. Grab the free guide while you're here, and let's stop leaving strokes and dollars on the table together. Before you go, one last thing. Inside the Honest Fairway Club, I keep going right where this video stops, walking you through it club by club. And in there, you can ask me your own question, and I answer you myself, not some robot. You won't be doing this alone. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen. You can cancel anytime with one click, no risk at all. Now that you know which irons to trust, let's find the driver that adds real distance off the tee, no matter your handicap. I've picked the best ones for you, and it's starting right here.